从以前开始一直觉得 Faker 是所有的职业选手里面最大的一些门一样，就是我们一定要超他，但是没有一个人能超他的人。我个人一直都想着像 SKT 一样，成为跟他一样的就是战队，不管打什么比赛，都一定能打出好成绩。
After watching Worlds, after watching Rookie make every top mid laner in the world just look bad, I was like, ooh, if he does that to Faker too, I don't think SKT can win.
IG가 작년에 우승을 했기 때문에 역시 강력한 우승 후보인 것은 확실하지만 제가 평가하기에는 저희 팀이 조금 더 경쟁력 있을 수 있다고 생각합니다.
我毕竟打了这么多年，面对他的时候不能像弟弟一样，一定要打出自己的实力。
Yesterday showed teams succeeding with both measured play and rapid-paced aggression. We'll see how those playstyles affect the current standings in our games today. We have Team Liquid and G2 arriving just moments ago. They're going head-to-head in our first bout of the day. EU versus NA, looking to make a statement here on day 2 of groups. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the MSI Countdown, where we give you the takeaways from day 1 and look ahead towards G2 Esports versus Team Liquid until the timer reaches 0 and we jump into Champions Select. Now, day 1 concluded with the world champions starting off strong and earning a 2-0 alongside Team Liquid, while G2 and SKT split the day at 1-1, leaving the LMS and VCS winless and with some ground to cover in their upcoming games. Now, the right thing to do after one day of groups is to temper expectations and wait for a larger sample size before rushing to conclusions. But that's not very fun, is it? So it's time for some overreactions. First up, lock in Team Liquid for top 3.
I don't know about that one. All right? I came into the tournament thinking pretty strongly about Team Liquid, and I was a little bit trepid about talking about G2 with Mickey X, the questions around that. But at the end of the day, G2 came in strong versus SKT, and I was a little bit fretting when they went up against G2 and came in strong early.
I feel like the overreaction is assuming that that's kind of the expectation that people have.
Yeah.
Of Team L being in that top 3. I think right now, comfortable 4th heading into a semifinal, if that's what your expectations are, you're right on track.
Fair enough.
I agree. These guys are going down today.
Oh, okay. Well, we're not far off from finding that out, my friend Deficio. Next, the LCK is the 3rd best region in the world right now.
I do want to say that that's a step up over 4th best region in the world. So
That's
already,
true, I
since
guess.
they're back, they're
Upgrade.
climbing back up.
I think as a full region, no.
Look at
okay.
this pop-out answer.
Then
my
that
goodness.
Still, well, yeah, I mean, he's asking about the region, right?
Right.
So it's still better than, let's say, Europe.
Deficio's
But
here
I
with like
would
the
say-
fine print, like, oh, region, yes.
I have no issue right now in saying that G2 can be stronger than SKT. So if you're just asking about the one team, I can put them in 3rd. But the region as a whole, no offense, XL and Rogue, but you're not exactly competing on the LCK level yet.
And I'm looking at the SKT logo on that one and saying that everyone's overreacting off their first game. I think they fixed the draft. Not a lot
They
of
played
people-
Flash Wolves in the 2nd game.
But they looked good with their drafting opportunities.
Yeah.
Did look like he was bombed.
But so did TL. By that logic, you're like, pump the brakes on TL versus Flash Wolves. But SKT, you're like, but they looked really good. It was Flash Wolves.
We ain't looking back, all right? That was the question at hand, is about SKT.
All right, so you're thinking that SKT is on track to maybe prove themselves as returning to a top 2?
Yeah, top 2 certainly.
All right, fair enough. Next up, Akali equals win in this tournament.
I think it's dependent on which team you're talking about. Now, TL did show out the Akali, and it's nice because then you get another arsenal to their toolkit. Jensen can pop off through that mid lane. But specifically for teams like Invictus Gaming and G2, yes, I think you see that Akali, that's a win.
And we haven't even seen Rookie on the Akali pick in the LPL. That was one of his strongest champions as assassin option. So when Invictus Gaming get their hands on the Akali with numerous flex picks banned out for them, people are focusing on the Rise and the Jace. Certainly Akali will find her way through.
I just get almost sad when I watch a fed Akali just one-shot an AD carry. And then it's like, but let's see what's going to happen now. What's the counter play? Shroud. And like, okay, let's just sit here and wait then. And the entire team comes in and helps the Akali. So I think with people like the Shy and Jensen yesterday getting early kills, it makes Akali insanely strong. I want to see teams that actually punish Akali in the early game.
Yeah, I think it's the classic, like, Akali doesn't have flash. We can actually gank her. You walk up, she just shrouds away. It's like, Akali doesn't have flash. And that doesn't matter. Congratulations.
Just one of the many flex picks that has found top priority in this tournament, either picks or bans. Finally, Invictus Gaming will go 10-0 in groups.
Yes!
No.
I like this question. Look, yesterday was their worst day. I know it was their first day, but it ain't gonna get worse than that, and they came out 0.
Are you kidding me? They faced PvB yesterday, and they almost lost. They faced SKT today, and you feel like, yesterday was the worst day.
What's the point?
The point is that they're apparently not top 3.
We saw that G2 game. It took a long time to get to that conclusion, but it ended fairly quickly.
I like you say a long time when it's like at 7 minutes they started getting kills on the Shy, and it was like, okay, this game is definitely.
We were waiting a long time, all right, to get to that conclusion.
So you think IG is going to drop a game, at least?
No one has ever gone through groups, I don't think, undefeated there. I don't know why.
That is true. No one in MSI groups has gone undefeated.
Then I don't know why you look at Invictus Gaming versus PvP. And IG just as a team, as a playstyle, when you smile at them, they smile back. They like getting down and dirty. They like matching you when you decide to go crazy. And that we're like, 10-0, clean sweep, easy from here, boys. I'm like, that just doesn't suit them.
The team's most likely to pick up a game off of IG?
I would say SKT, G2, TL, PvB.
That's a lot of teams.
So all of the teams, everyone here has a shot.
Peak IG because they play because everything is so high risk and everything. But if everything falls in place and it's like peak IG, they could actually go 10-0.
Yeah, I would say SKT. I mean, coming into the tournament, I thought SKT would come out first in the group stage. I still think they come out 10-0 simply on the fact that, based off what we saw from SKT in day one, that I think Khan is someone that we want to be putting a lot of pressure on, and that is the strongest point for Invictus.
I'm going to say 8-2 for Invictus Gaming.
8-2 is the call there, but topping the group?
Yes.
All right, there it is, locked in. Deficio, we're holding you to that. Throughout yesterday's games, we saw 2 distinct play styles separating the competition. There's the basket of proactive, aggressive play, and that of slow, calculated League of Legends.
And it feels like you kind of split the 6 teams right down the middle there. You have Flash Wolves, TL, SKT, kind of these more controlled, slower-oriented teams. And then on the other side, you have Invictus Gaming, G2, and PvB, who feel like they're really trying to amp up the speed, put the pedal to the metal, and run over early games.
Yeah, and what I love from PvB, Flangbu Buffalo came in incredibly aggressive. The only problem is that, they kept at that point. When you have a lead, you do want to slow it down and start to play a more standardized game.
Yeah, just don't slow it down from the start if you're PvB, because that's what they tried against Team Liquid. They kind of tried to jump over into that bucket. We don't want to see that. Go back into your aggressive one. I think it's very interesting to always see a tournament meta develop. We always start somewhere day one with a lot of questions. Some teams are doing different things. And typically, you find out there's one playstyle that's kind of superior, and then everyone tries to go towards it. I do feel urban now with this current meta where there is so many different aggressive flex picks. There's turret plating for the early game, but there's also strong scaling options. We have seen Azir being picked quite a bit already in the mid lane. I do actually feel like we might have a tournament where it stays this way, that there are 2 clear different styles of play. And the question is, who's executing the best?
I'm actually going to take the other side of that, and I agree that there's 2 clear styles, but I think it's going to be who finds that balance first that really will kind of pop up over the victor, and that it should come down to draft execution. And so I kind of look at teams like SKT and TL because they seem to be the most flexible to either side. Not necessarily there yet, but things like
TL flexible?
Well, the thing that TL are saying that they want to play more carries, that they are trying to speed up their gameplay. They're at least recognizing that there is another playstyle. They think that there's advantages to it and reaching for it. But if they actually capitalize on it, and I just think SKT are kind of the better of the control teams.
They can definitely be, yeah.
And that's why I emphasize them.
To me, there is a balance because for Team Liquid, it came through Jensen where they can speed up the process of the game. And through SKT, Clid has done that in the LCK. So a lot of them, they don't want to go straight towards the flash rolls, slow, standardized game, no active point, because they will get messed up with a lacking vision that you see topside.
Yeah, I definitely agree that SKT should be able to be very flexible. They even tried to play early game, if we look back at the LCK split in the start as well. And yes, they have a jungler to do it, because typically he's the one who can really try and match what the enemy jungler is doing and try and stop snowball from happening. I don't think TL can do it. I think they should stick to what they're doing now, which is still the control side. We've seen the PvP series where it got really messy and crazy. That's not the style they've been playing if we look at yesterday. They had full control over the games. Jensen was winning his lane. Bot lane was in full control throughout the start of the game as well. Stick to that style. You don't have to overforce anything if you are TL.
What do you think holds back TL? I just want to know. Like, why do you think SKT can do it, but TL can't? Because I lean towards that, but I'm wondering where your blockers are.
I mean, I think there's a couple of players who have the way they want to play the game is just not suited towards the super early aggressive style.
Are you looking at like Xmithy?
Xmithy, Impact, these kind of guys. And that's not a bad thing. It's just a different way of looking at the game. And I think TL as a team have been playing for a year and a half now this kind of style. And typically when you get into pressure situations, you stick to comfort. And that's how you end up winning more games, at least the way I look at it. So I think TL should stick to that style.
Well, we'll see all those playstyles in action throughout the day as we continue the group stage from Hanoi. Game 1 is another battle in the EU versus NA rivalry with G2 and Team Liquid going mano-a-mano to kick things off. Then Fongvu Buffalo aims to get the better of the Flash Wolves, and 3 more games before our final match of the day, which pits Invictus Gaming versus SKT, the current best team in the world against the former undisputed kings of League of Legends. And one additional PSA. The issues we encountered on stage yesterday should be resolved for today's games. But just in case of emergency, take a page out of IG's playbook and practice your paper airplane skills as we've done here on the desk. Yesterday, we were taking a page out of their playbook. We all have built our own. This is going to be, this is the real test right here. We gave it a shot, and well,
I'm actually scared.
It's good we still have our day jobs, but don't touch that browser. We'll see you in a bit.
No!
Hey, mine was really good. Mine was actually really good. Yours was solid too. Welcome back to MSI Countdown, where we're not far away from G2 Esports versus Team Liquid. But before we get to that, yesterday we joked that some of the pros competing in Hanoi deserved to be on Deficio's naughty list. Well, the Moose on the Loose did more than provide a list. He checked it twice.
I didn't even
Deficio. Give us your naughty list, my friend.
Fine. Okay, I put 3 things on my naughty list from yesterday. And it's starting with Ning and the Shy against G2, more specifically against Yankers up in the top lane. Because that kind of play gets you on the naughty list.
Oh, this was naughty.
But here's the greatest thing, though. The fact that Invictus Gaming probably get to be on naughty and nice list simultaneously in the exact same game from like moment to moment, I think just speaks about their playstyle.
I know, I love it. Like you can watch 5 minutes of a game and be like, what's happening here? This is the worst thing I've ever seen. And you watch another 5, and it's the greatest.
Yeah, specifically the Shy. In one game, we were like, oh, this is awful. And you get to the later portions of the game, his Akali starting to go off. You're like, okay, maybe.
And listen, both of them are also on this because of the PvP game, where they actually both really did some dumb stuff. There was another person in that game who had messed up quite a bit. Siros is on the naughty list, and yes, first of all, the skill shots are not exactly hitting from him, but also he managed to find ways to die a lot, and even more than you normally see in this game. Okay, that skill shot also missed there, that wasn't great. Then he tries to get out here, not really gonna work for him.
The go-to tactic was the flash hammer stance Q, like that.
Oh, that was the one in the top lane?
Yeah,
that was, this one,
another one
he just respawned and he walks out and he just dies again. Yeah,
it's brutal.
That was naughty in the bad way.
It's hard to watch that kind of stuff, but sometimes you just have those games, right, where you just can't stop.
Do you
shake it off?
Yeah, I'm sure every single person on this desk has had one of those games. And if you try and tell me you haven't, Deficio, I will go do some digging, because I'm sure we could even find one in your LCS
I've never entered a game in my life
where you ran it the hell down. I will find that, and it'll be played in front of millions of eyes. All right, who's last on the naughty list?
All right, last one here. It's a special one. It's going to be Grabbz from G2, and more specifically his draft, where he ends up in the... Lucky
no, that
in the
can't be real. That's photoshopped, right?
There's
no way that was actually drafted.
Effects as well.
No, not in a game of professional League of Legends. Deficio, tell me, no.
It happened. And after the game, he instantly tweeted, yep, that one's on me. His top laner actually called him out as well and saying, yeah, that's one of the Grabbz drafts. He ended. Everything went wrong. Sadly, even if the Vayne was supposed to work for like 6 levels, it definitely didn't.
It definitely did.
It was really bad.
You mentioned he threw out a tweet. He also had an opportunity to talk to Shox as well. So let's hear what Grabbz himself had to say about that draft.
Thank you very much, guys. I'm here with Grabbz, the coach of G2 Esports, ahead of their day 2 matches at MSI. Grabbz yesterday, a bit hot and a bit cold, a 1-1 win versus SKT very convincingly. And quite the stomp loss versus IG. I think you won't mind me saying that. How do you look back on day 1?
It was pretty good overall, I think. Against SKT, we showed how strong we are. Against Game 2, against IG, the draft was unplayable. I kind of run it down there, so happens, but next time we win, so.
Okay, so you're blaming kind of yourself and the draft entirely. Do you think it was workable at all when you got into that game, or did you realize very quickly on, okay, no, this is just, we made a lot of mistakes, especially maybe that Vayne versus Akali?
Yeah, exactly. Like, we kind of ran out of top options because we got too fancy with the majors on bot, especially because Perks is such a champion pool. There's no reason to pick it early. So if you pick just a GP there, for example, then the game is really easy to play, actually. We had bot pressure, but just the way top went, there was no way jungles could help bot. And yeah, like, if anything else than Vayne, anything that can just survive lane, I would probably be fine. But yeah, next time.
Yeah, next time indeed. I mean, the MSI group stage is very long. There are so many games to play, and there's nothing lost by losing to IG. However, as a fan, of course, of G2 Esports and wanting to see them do well, it is a bit concerning that, you know, European teams keep losing to IG, and that was a very tough loss. Does that concern you at all going forward into the bigger goal of wanting to win MSI?
Honestly, it's hard to judge because IG was running it down as well, both games. Against PvP, against us as well. Like, we should not have been that strong in a game like we were. So of course you can argue they are better and they're just not showing it. You can also argue though that if we have a normal draft, we will stomp them really easily because, yeah, especially Ning is very aggressive to a fault sometimes. So it felt different to lose against him yesterday, like at Worlds, like very different. Yeah. So honestly, I'm not too worried for now, especially because also we still have room to grow as well, right?
Yeah. I completely agree. Now, the most important thing is that you get back on that horse and win versus Team Liquid. And it is, of course, that big NA versus EU clash. What can you say about the matchup?
I think we're favored, especially top side. I think even if you pick there, Vayne to Akali should be better than today. Not that we're doing it, but I mean, we respect every opponent. But I think it's going to be like SKT, where Liquid wants to be a bit slower. And if we just target them in draft and go a bit aggressive, I think they can't really handle that. So I expect us to win in a fashion similar to SKT.
Okay, well, fantastic. Looking forward to that one. Thank you very much, Grabbz, and good luck today. Back over to you guys.
So probably no Vayne top here in the TL game to start off the day.
If TL picks Vayne top and beats G2 with it,
then the tournament's over. Great minds, great minds. Well, we had Deficio's naughty list. We can't continue without taking a look at Raz's nice list, where a lot of these players are going to be trying to make their way over before the knockout stage. Raz, hit me with those who have made it onto the nice list for day one.
First things first is Jensen in an international event. Comes on with Assassin's pick. Akali, he's the one who also came out on Twitter, said that he was an Akali one trick. I'm sure teams will challenge that. Because when it comes to TL on an international stage, that extra dynamic is necessary, and Jensen did it for them.
And we keep repeating it. It's the fact that you needed to have multiple access points there, and I want to see how Xmithie starts playing through that avenue with Jensen.
Saw three other members on that list, first of which would be Clid over there for SKT. We've already talked about his aggressive early game playmaking potential. Why is he on the nice list?
When we saw him in the second game going up against Flash Wolves, he did everything for them. He went top side, got a lead for Khan. He was, he even went back top lane again just to make sure that Khan got everything that he needed. Went towards the mid side, and of course, he made it hell for Shalsi in particular because every time he was searching for vision. Lee Sin, hop kick. That's what we saw from him in the LCK, especially in the finals when he went up against Tarzan. And this was necessary to see him in game 2 and day 1 to be able to show the fans he can hit him.
He was also the only player really trying in the first game to actually protect Khan against G2. And he had a pretty good early path to at least stop the first tower dive. It just wasn't enough because there was like 3 people constantly just destroying the top lane.
Had the right idea, wasn't quite enough to make it happen. But this is one of those guys that we talked about was a big pickup for SKT, where in the past, the jungle has maybe been a point of criticism for that squad. This time around, they have someone more than serviceable in that position to help them move through towards victory. Moving right along down your list, I see Rookie in the mid lane for IG.
It was needed because if Rookie was not the only person on that map, it also gives some credit towards Jackie Love, but Rookie in particular, if he wasn't the one that was clear-headed in a lot of those fight situations they could have lost versus Fungu Buffalo, could have certainly turned it around, but his Zoe was fantastic when he went up against, in particular, earlier on in that series.
Against Caps, yeah.
Exactly, and the Syndra in that game. I think that he's always someone who will perform on the day nerves won't hit him. Hectic circumstances won't nerve him, so I
And
love
he
his
makes
performance.
Caps worse.
Yes.
Like, it's a really cool thing to have, a player where you like, just put him against Caps and then suddenly, you know.
And then boom,
Everything
doesn't
is
look
just
like he
different.
knows how to play the game anymore. Finally, we have PVV's Palette. In an 0-2 day, he still makes the nice list.
You have to give him that credit, especially earlier on in play-ins off of his Galio play. He's the captain of the team. He gave him an early game lead going up against the world champions and then drew them into these fights. He was mechanically spectacular on that fight.
And the thing is when PvP are online, it's when they're teaming up around his plays and his playmaking champion. So I want to continue to see things like the Pyke, like the Galio, and their jungler give him more attention because Big Carl, Palette, that's a win condition right there. Forget about Zeros in that top lane.
Which list would you rather be on? Raz's nice list or Deficio's naughty list?
Deficio's naughty list.
Oh, that's a quick answer.
Oh my God.
Don't worry, Raz,
All
I'm
right.
with you.
All right.
I'm with you, baby. We're the nice guys on the desk, split right down the middle. Time for a break. When we return, we look at the next chapter in the classic EU versus NA rivalry as G2 and Team Liquid face off in Game 1. See you soon.
The Shine.
Welcome back to MSI Countdown, where Day 2 will kick off with G2 Esports versus Team Liquid. The LCS champions started the group stage with a 2-0, and Jensen had this to say about his Day 1 performance.
Thank you very much, guys. I'm here with TL's Jensen ahead of Day 2 at MSI, coming off a 2-0 day on Day 1. Super impressive. How do you look back on the 2 games you played on Day 1?
I think they went pretty good, pretty clean games from us, but at the same time, I think we had the weaker part of the schedule at least, so I think the real test lies ahead of us tomorrow, so I'm satisfied we were able to 2-0, but I don't really think too much of it right now.
I think that's a good way to look at it because, of course, IG is the world champion. G2 is a tough opponent as well. What do you think will be the keys to taking down those teams?
I think as long as we don't fall into like the crazy style of play and we just play our own game, which we did today, then I think we have a pretty good shot at beating both of them.
That's interesting because there's been a lot of talk about TL having to play more aggressive or changing up the style a little bit. Doublelift said, well, it's all about the balance. How do you look upon possible changes you have to make, or do you think you should stick more to the style you have been playing in LCS?
Well, I think it's just a mix of both. Like, I think we like to have a good balance of like macro and then just also fighting at the same time, whereas teams like G2 and ID, they tend to go for fights a lot more rather than just macro play. So as long as we don't like fall into that trap and just play more macro oriented, but also fighting like just when it's a good timing for us, then I think we have a pretty good shot.
Okay. Specifically about the G2 matchup, is there anything extra you want to say about the Clash versus EU?
Well, I mean, last time it didn't go too well for me against Caps, but this time I'm going to have to clap him.
Fantastic. Looking forward to it. Thank you very much, Jensen. Back over to you guys.
Thank you very much, Shocks. Like Jensen said himself, despite North America's 2-0 start, today is their first real test here at MSI 2019.
And here's the thing, these are the 2 super teams, NA versus EU. Everyone wanted this iteration of TL. They made the adjustments. This is their international roster. And then on the other side, you have the G2 powerhouse, such a dominant force. And it feels like the stars have really aligned for this epic showdown. Because right now it's 4-4 at MSI, I believe. So this could be the decider.
Oh, now you're putting some extra pressure. I'm sure they don't even know about that. Hopefully, you know. I think they're not going to be hit by the pressure too hard. I think in particular, the mid lane matchup for me is the most important one. I love the fact that we got to hear from Jensen, especially going up against Caps. I love how Jensen plays on internationals. There's no nerves when he comes onto the field, comes out with a new champion, like tier list overall, like the Akali's excellent. I still love his Syndra, so I know we'll see it back on stage.
And speaking of the Akali, I think the draft is so important, not just because of a G2 and a G2 game, but specifically TL's drafting points. We already know that the Akali gives them that extra factor that they can play through, but things like the Gangplank and the Tahm Kench, time and time again, teams are targeting out core JJ. They're taking away the Kench, they're taking away the Braum. At what point will people start to look at Impact getting a free pass on Gangplank and start to ban that away?
Yeah, the GP is so interesting because on one hand, it's his best champion and it provides a global ulti that's super useful for the bottom lane in order for them to get further ahead and snowball the game, which we know is the preferred style. But on the other hand, it is a pick that you can counterpick and actually destroy pretty hard in the early game. You know, get big CS leads, take an early turret, maybe even try and kill him with a gank or two, and you can get your top laner to be really, really strong split pusher. So I get both sides, the one where you ban it to say, listen, it's the best pick, we don't want to deal with the global part, but I also understand the let's leave it open and let's try and destroy it.
Specifically, the level of coordination coming in from Flash Wolves and Fangbu Buffalo in their 4 games, I say, to look to dive GP hasn't been working out. But certainly the teams that we'll be seeing today, that Team Liquid will be going up against, will have that idea to be able to put impact down.
I think that's actually a huge thing. I don't think this GP has been tested on this international stage yet, because no one has looked for the dive. And this could be G2's big moment to say, let's let it through, and if it is, that's a trap. Everyone knows it's coming if it's left open.
But it's got to be one way or the other. Either you get rid of the champion to see what Team Liquid goes to next, or you let them have it, but you attack it this time around. Put impact.
Yeah, don't do the split farm thing with GP where you're not going aggressive on top side, because then it's just a great pick for Team Liquid.
Deficio, I do want to jump back to the mid lane matchup though real quick, because we obviously hit that the Akali for Jensen has been a solid pick so far, but Caps, I want to talk about how he matches up against Jensen. It seems like he's got that somewhat of a mental blocker against Rookie, but no one else, and so I would expect him to return to form here.
Yeah, 100%. I think Caps is a lot more explosive in the way he's playing. There's a lot more carry threat coming from his side, and I think when we did see them last year, as Jensen said himself, when he was on C9, it was pretty heavily towards Caps. So I think there is an advantage for G2 they're looking to use here on their side, and that's kind of the whole story for me. It's just the 2 solo laners are where G2 are really strong, and that's where they're going to get the advantage over TL.
And whenever we talk about the mid lane matchup, oftentimes you have to bring in the jungle situation. For Xmithie last international event, his coordination with Pobelter wasn't on top. A lot of it was incredibly shaky. And so far at this point of the tournament, he's been hovering around the lane, has great control over the lane matchup, and specifically in the Vumvu Buffalo game, has had the number on Null. Now, Null got mauled by Jensen in the early portions of the laning phase, but certainly Xmithie made it certain that it was going to stay the same.
I think it's also important to highlight for Jensen that typically he's very good at the very minimum, to go even in lane. It's rare he's getting destroyed. So even if Caps are picking something super aggressive and they're trying to take him down, he typically ends up farming very well. And then once you get out of laning phase, he's able to do a lot. Like the Akali pick has been so huge because not only did he get a lot of farm, he even got early kills, and then he really got to shine.
Well, some key points to today's first match, but I want to see where you align in our predictions today. Yesterday, we let you get away with the first 3, then the second 3, because we hadn't seen the majority of these teams play just yet on the international stage. This time around, we made you pick all 6 off the top of the day. Not terribly surprised to see alignment across the board, except in that 6th and final game, Frosker, and you're going for SKT over IG.
Because I've already seen adaptation from SKT. It's very clear that they face a similar team. We call them Baby IG there with G2. They got slammed to the top lane. Immediately, the next time around you see them, yes, it's against Flash Wolves, but they're prioritizing the Rise, they're giving it to Calm, they're giving him resources. I think SKT have figured this out, and if we talked about that team that's gonna strike a balance between playing controlled or trying to match fast, my money's on SKT, and I think this time around, they're going to take it to IG.
It is the best game of the day for me. And for me, I would have it for IG simply on the fact that I've seen this team play this fashion in the past and recover the day after. So I understand that Ning and the Shy in particular came out looking shaky.
2-0.
100%, and I think they come in a little stronger today.
Well, we got 5 games to go before we get to that doozy of a 6th, but I want to take a look at win conditions. Granted, all 3 of you picked G2 to win this one. Raz, I am going to challenge you then to give me the win conditions for TL here in this first game of the day.
Well, we've seen it already yesterday, and a lot of it comes through playing through Jensen and picking well for your bottom side of the map. 100% we've been seeing Doublelift and Core JJ succeeding when they're able to get the Tom Catch Braum or the Varus and Lucian. So if we pick well for Doublelift, who's able to come out well in these 2v2s, and at the same time play through Jensen, that's going to be the success point for the squad.
All right, what would be the response then for G2 Deficio?
Well, first of all, don't let TL draft a super strong bot lane that they can play through and get ahead with, because we know that's the main way for them to win these games. And then I also just think play towards Wonder. This obviously goes in with the GP and the impact discussion we had before. It's not just Wonder 1v1, it's Jankers, it's Caps. I think G2 will have a big advantage on that side of the map, and they should take full advantage of it.
Any thoughts there, Frosker? You think they nailed it?
I think they pretty much got all of it.
All right, well, it's left then to the teams to decide who will take the victory. With the Rift prep of the teams nearing Champion Select, let's send it over to Dracos, Vedius, and Azael for Game 1.
Thank you very much, Jazz. Hello, everyone. I'm Daniel Dracos here with the deadly EU and NA combo of Andrew Vedieste and Isaac Azael Cummings.
You did it!
I know! They don't know that
I'm
was a
so
challenge.
proud of
If
you.
you missed plans, I butchered his name like a
He was like 0 for 5.
Yeah, I called you Isaac a lot. I apologize. But luckily, we've got that right. Now we're going to need to see how it's going to shape up in Champions Select as we enter our first game of the day. And when we were
I thought we were done.
You thought that was it? You thought
Yeah.
that was the challenge?
Yeah.
We'll sub it
there's
Captain
still-
Flowers.
There are still many challenges